This crash took the lives of 261 souls. Hang on as we explore this story. Welcome to a very tragic story where we recount real-life tragedies that rocked the globe. Nigeria Airways Flight 2120, the crash that surpassed Air Flight 1285R in death toll involving a DC-8. On July 11, 1991, Nigeria Airways Flight 2120, operated by Nationair Canada, suffered a catastrophic accident shortly after takeoff from King Abdulaziz International Airport in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The aircraft, a Douglas DC-861, was en route to Lagos, Nigeria, with a scheduled stopover in Sokoto. Tragically, all 261 passengers and crew on board lost their lives, making this the deadliest accident involving a Canadian airline and one of the worst disasters involving a DC-8 aircraft. Flight 2020 was a chartered pilgrimage flight carrying mainly Nigerian Muslim pilgrims returning from the Hajj. The aircraft was a Douglas DC-861 operated by Nationair Canada under contract with Nigeria Airways. Nationair was a Canadian charter airline that had been struggling financially. It was later revealed that these financial difficulties had led to cost-cutting measures, particularly in aircraft maintenance. Before the ill-fated flight, maintenance crews noted that the aircraft's tires were underinflated, a dangerous condition that should have been addressed before takeoff. Instead, due to pressure to maintain the flight schedule, the aircraft was cleared for departure despite these safety concerns. By 08:28 a.m., Flight 2120 begins taxiing for departure from Jeddah. The aircraft was cleared for takeoff by air traffic control. The aircraft accelerates down the runway. Due to underinflated tires, excessive friction generates heat, eventually igniting a fire in the main landing gear. At 08:33 a.m., the aircraft becomes airborne. Unknown to the crew, the fire intensifies, damaging hydraulic systems and the fuselage. It is now 8:30. The first indications of smoke appear in the cabin. Passengers begin alerting flight attendants. At 08:39 a.m., the fire warning light in the cockpit is illuminated. The flight crew discusses the possibility of an issue but continues climbing. 3 minutes later, at 42 a.m., smoke is visible in the cockpit. The captain contacts ATC, reporting a possible landing gear issue and requests an immediate return to Jeddah.
Jeddah, Nigeria 2120, we have smoke in the cockpit. Request immediate return.
Nigeria 2120, you are cleared for an emergency return. Do you require assistance?
Affirmative. We are losing systems. Declare emergency.
At 08:45 a.m., the fire spreads to the aircraft's control systems. The crew begins experiencing difficulties maneuvering the plane. Shortly after, at 8:47 a.m., pilots report loss of hydraulic pressure. Flight controls become sluggish. At 8:49 a.m., the fire causes catastrophic structural failure and the aircraft begins losing altitude rapidly. At 08:50 a.m., we heard the final communication with ATC.
We are in trouble here. Losing control. Request.
Transmission cuts off. Immediately at 08:51 a.m., the aircraft crashes approximately 18 kilometers from the airport, bursting into flames upon impact. Emergency responders were dispatched immediately, but upon arrival at the crash site, it became clear that there were no survivors. The aircraft had disintegrated upon impact, and the intense fire had made rescue efforts impossible. Of the 261 on board, 247 were passengers and 14 were crew members. The investigation into the disaster, conducted by Saudi Arabian and Canadian aviation authorities, uncovered several key issues. 1. Tire underinflation. The root cause of the accident was the failure to properly inflate the aircraft's tires, leading to excessive friction, overheating, and an in-flight fire. 2. Inadequate maintenance. Nationair Canada had a history of cutting costs in aircraft maintenance. The decision to dispatch the aircraft despite known tire issues directly contributed to the crash. 3. Delayed crew response. The pilots did not immediately recognize the severity of the fire and continued to climb instead of initiating an emergency landing sooner. 4. Structural failure. The fire compromised essential aircraft components, including hydraulic systems, leading to loss of control. Let's look at the impact of the disaster. 1. Loss of life. The tragic deaths of 261 individuals left countless families in mourning, particularly in Nigeria, where most passengers were from. 2. Reputation damage. The disaster severely tarnished the reputation of both Nationair Canada and Nigeria Airways. Nationair declared bankruptcy in 1993, partly due to the fallout from the crash. 3. Aviation safety reforms. This accident underscored the importance of tire pressure monitoring and overall maintenance. Stricter international regulations were introduced to prevent similar occurrences. The Nigeria Airways Flight 2120 disaster remains one of the most devastating incidents in aviation history. Nigeria suffered a huge loss that day. The crash serves as a sad reminder of the critical importance of adhering to safety protocols and proper maintenance procedures. While regulations have improved in the aftermath, the lessons learned from this tragedy continue to shape aviation safety today. Thank you for watching A Very Tragic Story. Do not forget to drop a comment, like, and subscribe.